Hello, I am Nate Beachy with Horner Solutions, here with the Chart Recorder product, showing you a couple of things about it. In this video, I'm going to go over the network setup and also the emailing and all that stuff as far as how you can get files off of the Chart Recorder over a network connection. So, on my Chart Recorder over here, let me show you. In the configuration menu of the Chart Recorder, one of the options is network configuration, and this is a pretty standard Ethernet setup in general. So there's no DHCP or anything fancy about these. You do have to tell it which exact address it's going to be at on the network, and so therefore you will have to talk to your IT department or somebody on site that's part of the IT department to get a valid IP address for this controller. So put some valid IP addresses into the configuration for whatever network you're actually connected to. The gateway address may or may not be needed depending on the network setup. Again, the IT professionals will know how that all works. The network test here, once you do have things set up, you can actually ping another address on the network just by touching this ping address and typing in another address on the network, which I currently don't have a network set up, so this won't go anywhere, but you'll see how ping response being -1 means nothing got back to me. Otherwise, I'd see a positive number of milliseconds there, which is the amount of time it took for the other device to respond to this ping request. When this is set to 0, it will stop trying to ping anything. There's also a system time and date setting in here and some status as far as whether you're connected to Ethernet at all, and if you are, what the parameters are of that. Once you have network setup complete, there's the option to set up email also through the little email icon over here. This setup will allow you to configure for an SMTP server. And SMTP is Simple Mail Transfer Protocol or some such thing like that. But basically, any server is going to be having its own setup configuration. For instance, if you decided to use a Google Gmail account, there'd be a setup for that in here that requires you to go through your security settings on Google and actually set up a device that is a secure device, and it will give you a key that you have to put into the password field here in the email setup. So there is no one-size-fits-all for this, and therefore I will leave it blank. There is one tool here. A lot of times the email account address is the same as the username. So once you type that in once up here in the email account address, you can use this to copy this to the field down here so that you don't have to type it in again. Once the email server part is set up, there are spots down here for email addresses. There are 3 spots each for records and events. So if an event happens, an email can get sent out. If I enable it here and specify the email address here in the email address field, up to 3 separate addresses for each of these things. And if I have records working, when the record gets done, should they get emailed to somebody, I can do that if I set it up through here by enabling the email records, and then also attach the file if I want to with this option over here. Once that's set up, then things will get emailed on an event or on the finish of a record. This network setup is also what you're going to use to access this unit over the WebMI feature. What the WebMI feature allows you to do is pull up the Chart Recorder on a remote device, whether it be your PC or a phone, anything running a web browser. I'm going to establish a connection to my Chart Recorder with my laptop. So let's go over here to our Chart Recorder to start with. In my network configuration, I've got it set just to the default settings, which is fine. Now on my PC, what I'm going to do is change my Ethernet setup, and this is only because I have a cable going directly between my PC and the chart recorder. No switches, no gateways, no nothing. This is just a cable that goes from my laptop to the chart recorder. So if you're not familiar with this setup, that's beyond the scope of this particular video, but if you are familiar with this, this is where in Properties, under IPv4 settings, I have my laptop set up to 192.168.254.1. So you'll notice over here on the chart recorder, same everything except for the last number. This is a 128, and my PC is a 1. And so that's why on my chart recorder now, since I have this connected, I can go into my ping address and type 192.168.254.1, enter, and I am currently pinging my laptop, which is coming back around 11 milliseconds or so. Now that I have my chart recorder network set as such, and I have my laptop set as I showed you, for this reason I can now ping my laptop, which I had set at 192.168.254.1, and I'm getting an 11, 12 millisecond ping response from my laptop over this connection, just a straight up Ethernet cable between the two. With that connection in place, what I can do now is first use the FTP function. So I'm just going to open a file explorer. So Windows E is the easy way to get to that for me, at least. Under the address bar up here where it says this PC, I'm going to type in FTP://192.168.254.128. This is the address of my chart recorder. When I press enter here, Windows is going to ask me for a username and password. So the username and password for the chart recorder by default is CRRW, so chart recorder read write in capital letters, and also the same for the password, CRRW here. If I press enter, Windows likes to show me this empty screen for some reason. The actual files are back here on another screen. So let me close that empty screen, and now you see the contents of the micro SD card that's inserted in the chart recorder. Specifically under the chart rec directory. There might be other stuff on there, but under chart rec, that is specifically for the chart recorder. You've got an alarms folder, a log folder, a trend folder, an email folder, and records folder. The ones that will be relevant will be under records. For instance, I will find all the recordings that I made. These are where those files are stored. Each of these files can easily be opened in Excel by simply dragging it from this folder to your desktop or wherever on your laptop. It's not very easy to open them directly from this folder. It doesn't work very well. It tries to open it in a web browser, so I always drag it to my laptop somewhere and then open it from here. It's just a common separated value format sheet, and Excel or data sheet programs or data spreadsheet programs in general will very easily open these files. So now I have my date and time, and here I have my first data point called pressure in the PSI. Those are all the recording entries from there. Second data point, third data point, and fourth data point. And you'll notice that these are called data 0, 1, 2, and 3 as opposed to data 1, 2, 3, and 4. That's just an internal designation for those data points in the chart recorder. But there you have your record in this case. I will not save that. Going back to the main directory here of the chart recorder, the email folder will be empty most of the time. This is basically just a placeholder for emailed files. Under alarms, you'll find general alarm files here. And if you see something like alarm 08-03 in this case, that means that some records were made because this alarm file is kind of taken over by the record function. But these are things you're going to see in here are basically events that have happened. If events don't actually happen over the course of a day or over the course of a record, then you're not going to get a file for that day or for that record because nothing happened. So it's just not interesting enough to make a file. It says, hey, nothing happened. But what you'll see in here is the history of the alarms that happened. So date and timestamp, the event, whether it was an alarm or a clearing of the alarm or return of the alarm or acknowledgement of the alarm, and then what the alarm actually was. In this case, this was all just micro SD card alarms. Back in the log directory, this is where normal data logging files are taken. So for just data point number 1, here is the data log file for December 8th, 2023. That's what that file format is. 23 is the year, and then 12 December 08, the 8th of December. So if I drag that down here onto my laptop somewhere, open it. This is the normal data log file for a single data point. This is what is taken when you enable the data logging in general, not just the recording. So you get your pressure, in PSI, there's the daily average, here's the raw values. So there's a little more detail within each channel specific data log file than there is in the recording, for instance, which is more or less a general overview. Back to here, there's also a trend file, a trend folder. All of the trend screens on the chart recorder. So what I mean by the trend screens is back here on the main trend screen, all these data points that are shown on the trend are data logged into these files. They're not necessarily very user-friendly, but it allows you to come in here and look if you really want to see a history of what happened at a certain day and time. Those are absolutely captured on the micro SD card. And that's what you're going to find on the micro SD card through an FTP connection. That's the easy way to get files from the micro SD card if you don't just have them emailed to you in some cases. The other thing you can do over a network connection is open a web page to the same address, so 192.168.254.128. Enter. It's going to ask you again for username and password. This is a different one. It's going to be ChartRec with a capital C and a capital R for chart recorder. And then the password is simply 12345. When you first pull it up, you may get a confirmation of a license here that you have to confirm. So click the checkbox and hit OK. I didn't get it because I've had this open before. And here is the web page version of the chart recorder. So you've got your navigation tools over here, so I can switch between different pages. And this is separate from what you see on the chart recorder itself. The chart recorder is not showing the same thing that's on the web page, showing the same data, just not the same screen. So this is how you can navigate around in the web page version of the chart recorder for monitoring it in an office somewhere or a production office or something like that. And there's some limited configuration you can do. You can also view what the alarms and stuff are. You can't really control the records, and there's not a trend feature on the web page, but otherwise you can see what's going on the chart recorder through the web page interface. And sometimes it's a little bit slow to load, but when it comes up, it works thusly. And so that kind of gives you an overview of what you can do over a network connection, an Ethernet network connection to the chart recorder, whether it be directly like I just did, just a cable from here to here, some little magic with the settings on my laptop for a direct connection. Otherwise, you can go through firewalls and routers and such if you know what you're doing, which again is beyond the scope of this video. So, once again, I'm Nate Beachy here with Horner Solutions Chart Recorder, And that was how network settings work, and FTP and the WebMI page. Check out the other videos for other configuration on the chart recorder and such. Until the next one.